Welcome everyone, thanks for being here. So today I'm going to be talking about building voice-first Android apps. So my name is Elaine, I come from France, Paris in France. I'm originally from Brazil, but I've been living there for the past 15 years. I'm a mobile developer at Sphere, which is a French agency, so I work a lot with Android mostly. I've done some iOS work too, lately some Flutter work too, but since the announcement of the Google Assistant, I was really interested in this kind of technology, so I got in really early. And I did some talks and workshops about it, and I really love talking about mixing the Google Assistant. How can we take advantage of features that are available for the Google Assistant, but for mobile developers? So this is my main topic, and this is why I'm going to be talking about that today. And I'm also a GD for the Google Assistant. So this is the outline of the talk. First of all, why we should be thinking about integrating voice features on a mobile app, on an Android app today. So how do we do that then? And then I'm going to be talking about a little history of what has been done on Android, specifically from Google, from the Android teams and from other teams, and then some third-party solutions, and then finally the integration with the Google Assistant. So why? Why we should care about integrating voice features on a mobile app? So the main inspiration. Oh, it's okay. It's working again. Okay, cool. Can I continue? Yes. Nice. So yes, as I said, the main inspiration for me to do this talk was to were actually people coming to me asking me, how do I integrate the Google Assistant inside my app? Not doing an app for the Google Assistant, but basically integrating it inside the app. People actually, I'm going to talk about that later, but a lot of people are confused about Android development and Google Assistant development. A lot of people think they are the same. You can actually integrate it inside an app. It's not, we're going to see that afterwards. And as an example, I have 3 conversations that I had with different people in a very short period of time that had existing apps, and they wanted to integrate the Google Assistant. So basically, they didn't want to integrate the Google Assistant. They wanted to integrate the voice interaction, hands-free interaction. So the first one was a recipes app. You can see it totally makes sense. You have already a mobile app with a lot of users that are engaged to your app, that are loyal to your app. Maybe it works for telephones, for tablets. You launch a recipe, you put it on the counter, you start getting your hands dirty doing the actual recipe, and then you totally makes sense, right, to make a hands-free interactions with that using voice. Also, another person talked to me about a taxi driver app. Completely makes sense too. When you're driving, you should have some kind of other interaction with the app that is not touch interaction, maybe voice or some other interaction. And just for the fun, someone actually that I know works a lot with the augmented reality. They like showing a little character on the real world, and maybe it would be cool to say like, oh, jump and turn left, turn right, do a little dance using voice. And I think I show it here because I think it makes sense too. It's more fun way to integrate voice inside an app. So this was the first reason. The second reason is that voice interactions inside an app or with technology in general, it's one of the most accessible ways that you can interact with technology. There are people today that have maybe some dexterity problems or have some move problems or eyesight problems that cannot interact with technology with the ways that you and I can. And those people, they can do it through voice. Either with the Google Assistant or inside an app. It's really important for us to think about those people because those kind of people, well, they don't have access to the same information that we have. It's really a shame. And with this kind of technology that is available for us today that works better and better, I'm not saying that it's perfect today, but it's something new. It's something that can really help those people have access to technology and have the same kind of information and services that we have. So what do we need to do in order to integrate voice interactions inside an app? So there are four steps that you have to do. The first one is the speech recognition. You have to have some kind of service that translates what the user said, the audio that the user said, into text. But before doing that, you have to actually start listening, doing the, okay, Google, the Alexa, hot word detection. So you have that step too. And then once you have the text that was said in a natural way, it is not comments like, I don't know, like left, right. It's actual whole phrases that are said in natural way that every person that is going to say in a different way, you have to treat it. You have to put it on a machine learning model that will extract the information from the user in order to do something. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit too earlier. And then once you have all the parameters that you need, you're going to send that to your backend and then maybe do some database queries or some API calls. And then you have to give back to the user the answer in through voice. So there's another, the last step. There's the speech, text-to-speech, sorry. And you also have two ways that you can integrate with this kind of technology, with this kind of with voice interactions. You can either integrate with existing platforms. There are a lot of platforms that are out there, of course, Google Assistant, Alexa, Siri, and stuff. And you can do apps that are native to those kind of apps. So not doing a mobile app, but doing an app that works with these platforms. But we cannot, I'm going to talk about voice today, but there are a lot of chat apps, messaging apps that are available there that have tools that you can use to do not a voice forward interaction, but a conversational forward interaction that is going to be using only text, but it works in the same way. And as an example, you have Slack, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, and others that have already kits or SDKs that are available to integrate with them. And you can also integrate it directly to your app. Again, if you have an app that have thousands, millions of users, you could think about integrating it to to those users directly inside of the app, either with first-party APIs that are provided by Google, by the Android teams, that are available on Android SDK, or with third-party SDKs. Or we also first-party solutions integrated with the Google Assistant. So two strategies. You can do the first one, the second one, or both at the same time. It can make sense. The main thing that you have to think about is where your users are. If you have a lot of users that are on Facebook Messenger or on VK, I think here what you have, maybe you should be targeting those platforms. So let's talk about voice interactions on Android. Here you have a timeline of all the Android versions. And what you can see here, so the text that is in green here are solutions that are provided by Android, by the Android SDK. So what it means is that every developer, Android developer, has access to it, like with no external integration. And what you can remark here in this graph is that very early in 2009, 2010, the very first versions of Android, we already had the text-to-speech and speech recognizer APIs that are still available today, that have evolved. I'm not saying that here, back in 2010, they worked well. Maybe not. Maybe they worked only in English. Maybe they didn't work really well, but you can see that the efforts have begun really, really early. And thanks to that efforts that we have the power of the Google Assistant today, the power of, well, Google Voice and Google Now and Google Assistant further. So here you can see that I put on black and italic here some Google efforts that have been made to, with voice. that work on Android, but they don't have public APIs. In 2012, in the year of Android, the Jelly Bean, Google Now was announced. Sometimes when we think about the OK Google history, not history, but we associate the OK Google with the Google Assistant, but the birth of this hot word was actually with Google Now back then. And then there was also some APIs provided by the Android SDK in 2015 with Marshmallow. That worked pretty well, but they were very limited, only for setting alarms and doing stuff like that. We as developers could take advantage of that to integrate it with very few kinds of apps, but it was out there. And then, but if I come back to 2014, the Android Lollipop year, you can see that I put API.ai there. It's in orange because it's a Google technology, but so it's not Android, but you can do it on Android. And I have the text is like that because they used to have a mobile SDK. There was targeted to Android, to iOS, even for Cordova, for Ionic, and a lot of other mobile platforms. But with the latest version, the version 1 of this SDK has been deprecated. Since then, maybe you don't know about API.ai, but you have heard about the Dialogflow that works with the Google Assistant, that works really well, which is basically the part that does the processing of the things that the person say. Dialogflow is, that used to be called API.ai. On the input, Dialogflow takes a text, a string, said in a natural way, and on the output, it gives us parameters, intents, and entities, basically parameters coming from what the user said that we as developers can use. And it has been acquired by Google, so this is why the change of the brand. And this is why I put it like that. It still exists, it still works really well, but there are no more specific mobile SDKs. You can still integrate it to mobile, but there are no more mobile SDKs. And I don't know if there are going to be one. And then if you go to 2016, of course, the birth of the Google Assistant, but the Google Assistant itself doesn't provide an SDK specifically for mobile, at least in 2016. It was all about integrating, of course, with the phone, with the Google Home, with all the Google Assistant-powered devices. But if you wanted to integrate it inside an app, completely impossible in 2016. But I'm going to be talking in the latest part of the talk how today we can integrate with the Google Assistant. And then for the latest years, I only put some examples of efforts being made inside of Google with machine learning. And when you say machine learning, in general, we say image processing or text processing or voice, natural voice processing. And you can do that with SDKs like TensorFlow, especially TensorFlow Lite, that is specific for mobile. And then MLKit from Firebase, from the Firebase toolkit. I'm not going to be getting into the detail about those technologies, but I just wanted to know that the efforts keep coming. So that's really cool that Google and the Android team do a lot of efforts in that area, but there's not only Google in Live, there's a lot of other third-party solutions that can do the same kind of solution. So first, if you remember, I talked to you about 4 things that you have to do. Those are the 4 things. And if you remember, the speech recognition and the text-to-speech, they are provided by the Android SDK. I'm not saying that it is not important. I'm not saying that the Android solution is perfect, but so I'm going to leave those solutions on the side, and I'm going to be focusing on the hot word detection on the NLU part. So again, the hot word detection is basically the OK Google. So you're, sorry if I'm triggering this phone all the time, so sorry if I'm triggering other phones too. basically doing the hot word, start listening actually to what the user has to say, and then doing the NLU or NLP part. I didn't say it before, but NLU stands for Natural Language Understanding. We can also talk about NLP, Natural Language Processing, which is basically, you can see here, it's transforming something that is said in a natural way to, you can see there you have a JSON with parameters that we can use. So I have searched for all the solutions that I could that have mobile SDK, mobile forward SDKs, and this is what I found. And I'm going to, so you can see, yes, before I do the demonstration, you can see that I put HWD if they do a hot word detection, and NLU if they do the NLU part, and both if they do both. Then we can switch to the demonstration. So I can talk to you, I can show you the Porcupine demo. So what I did for the demonstrations here is that I went to their website and I downloaded the demo, and I'm going to show you how their demo works. So Porcupine, what they do is that they only do the hot word detection. So you can start listening. You can see on the demo you can pick a hot word. So now I'm going to stick with the first one, and then I'm going to start listening, and then it's going to be looking for Hey Pico. Hey Pico. So yes, it's everything that this app does. It's looking for the hot word, and then you can do start listening to what the user says. The second one is No Boy. Not the same interface. Again, this is the demo provided by the SDK itself. And in this demo, it's looking for the word Alexa. Alexa. So I can keep talking, and if I say Alexa, okay, you can see it detects the hot word, and it works pretty well. One thing that I wanted to show you about Snowboy is that when I was looking for it, I came across this app that actually uses the Snowboy SDK for the hot word detection, and is available for users, available on the stores, and has more than 1 million users. So it's really nice to see that they using this SDK, there are some apps that are pretty successful out there. So the next one that I wanted to show you today is the Snips one. So Snips, you can see this is their mobile app. There's nothing you can see there, because actually on their demo app, if you want to see something that is working, you have to actually look at the logs. So yes, and also there was like zero documentation, so I had to dig into the demo project to find what he actually did and what it was expecting. And the hot word is Jarvis, turn on the lights. So you can see that he detected the hot word. I didn't say, I forgot that Snips does both. It does hot word detection and the processing of the phrase, the machine learning part. So you can see that it worked. It detected the hot word and then detected an intent. We say intent, so it's the action that the user wants to make. So works pretty well, pretty cool. Well, the app didn't change anything. It's still like this. So this is why you had to look on the logs. One thing that I have to say about Snips is that it works offline. So if you want to have some offline processing of voice, works well. So this was Snips. Then we have Pocket Sphinx. So Pocket Sphinx, it's like Snips. It works offline, and it works. It does both. It does hot word detection, and it does the natural language processing. So for this one, the hot word is the one that you see here. I'm not going to say because it's going to trigger it. And then we are going to, and then I'm going to say, I think, forecast, something like that, because they have 3 examples. Almighty computer, forecast. So like now I can start saying things related to weather. If I start saying stuff about that's not related to weather, it's not going to work well, because this is local, this is not going to the internet. And then if I talk about conferences and my friends and going on weekends, So you can see, I said conferences, I said friends, I said words like that. I don't know if you had the time to see what it translated to, but it was completely wrong. It got it completely, it was completely, well, wrong, because it works locally. It works locally, so it has a pre-trained model that is embedded to the app. And every time that you go outside of that lexic of the words that of the use cases that you have thought about, it's going to be completely wrong. So the advantage, and the same for SNPs actually, I didn't say. The advantage is that it works offline. So I'm not connected to the internet right now, but I didn't have to. And but yes, but it gets some things wrong. So advantage works offline. At disadvantage, if you say something that was not coded for that, it won't work. And the last one that I wanted to show today is actually the Amazon one. So Amazon has also a developer kit that is, and they have a specific available mobile SDK. So I wanted to show that to you. Last time that I did the demonstration didn't work very well. So let's see if it works. So Amazon with Lex is basically the dialogue flow of Amazon, is the part that is going to do the natural language processing. They only do that part, so they don't do the hot words. So you see you have the button that I'm going to be pressing. And then it is this version, this demo is tied to an agent that works, that I have published to AWS, to the Amazon Web Services, which is the cloud of Amazon, that I had to put in place to do this demo. And this demo is about a hotel reservation, if I remember right. So if I do make a reservation, Paris. Tomorrow. Oh. Okay. Tomorrow. Come on, work. Blah, blah. Is it working? Tomorrow. In 3 days. So yeah, so it didn't understand. Sunday. Sunday, on Sunday. Okay. 25, he got something, I don't know what. Okay, maybe it's, whatever. Mid-size, oh, it's not listening. Mid-size, is it listening or not? Again, this is their demo, it's not mine. Mid-size. Okay. Okay, so it understood Sunday because it's 11, and you can see yes. Okay. So yes, I forgot. I didn't even know that it did also car reservations. All the demos that I did was about hotel reservations. The example, their code on the GitHub, they provide the Alexa agent that is ready. So yes, I guess it does both. You can see that doesn't work that well, but again, I think we can tweak it to work better. But it got basically right at the time, at the end. And you could see it also on this demo that I did step by step with all the details. I have done another try where I give a lot of details on almost all of the details on one request, and it got it basically right. So yes, it works pretty fairly well. And one really big advantage of integrating with Alexa with Lex on your mobile app is that you have the Alexa agent that is ready to be deployed to Alexa devices. If you want to do that, it's the same advantage that you get when you do a dialog flow. You can target a lot of platforms. One of the platforms is the Google Assistant, but it works for a lot of other platforms too. So if you go back to the slides here, You can see that I have also identified Watson and Microsoft. I have tried to download their demo, but again, it was the same as Amazon. I had to set up something on their cloud and everything. For Amazon, it was the first time that I actually did something on AWS. It took me a lot of time. And eventually, I'll try IBM and Microsoft too. I think they should work pretty well. But yes, I didn't do it yet, but I'll just put it here so you can know that it works. And then, there are other SDKs that are available out there. I wanted to show them to you because they don't provide the specific mobile SDKs, but they work really well. Whereas at NLU, if you want to host all the intelligence on your on-premise, on your server, this is you should totally look at this. Talk is actually open source project done by the transportation service in France. It works pretty well too. With.ai is the solution by Facebook. They still are working, all those projects are really active, but they don't provide mobile SDK. With.ai used to provide a mobile SDK, but it's not available anymore. It's on their archived repo. And of course, Dialogflow, I said before, they used to have mobile SDKs, but they don't work, they haven't provided mobile SDKs for the version 2. But you can totally use any of these if you want to do it everything by hand. It's okay, but it's only a little bit harder. And the last thing that I wanted to show is specific to you is Yandex. Yandex has something that is called a speech kit that is that supports English, Russian, and Turkish, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not going to lie, I tried that last minute. I said, okay, maybe I can really, because I thought, yes, I don't think any of the solutions that I showed to you work in Russian. Maybe Dialogflow, I'm not even sure. Or Microsoft or IBM, maybe Russian is still a pretty big language. But you guys here, you people have Yandex. That is basically, the last time that I heard about Yandex, it was basically the Google of Russian-speaking countries. Something like that is really big. They have a lot of services. No, it's not. No, it's maybe the equivalent. No, not at all.
No, not as cool as Google.
Yes, but it's like a service. Yes, it's not as big. Maybe they have less services, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe not as big, but I had that in mind. And when I actually tried the Uber yesterday, it redirected me to Yandex. I say, oh yes, of course, Yandex. I should totally check out if Yandex has some kind of service, and they do. It's called SpeechKit, so I tried to set up an account, but as you can see, I had a problem finishing my cloud Yandex thing, and I couldn't do it, so yeah. So there's that, but they have, you should maybe try, maybe someone has already tried, no? Here in the audience, SpeechKit, Yandex, no, not at all. Okay, so it exists, but I don't know if it works well. So yeah, so this was for the third-party integrations that you can do inside an existing mobile app. So specifically for Android here, the demos that I did are for Android, but they almost always work as well on iOS. But there's this thing that has been announced from Google. It is the Google Assistant, this new platform that works, of course, on smart speakers, on televisions, on computers, and they work also on Android, on mobile phones. And it totally makes sense, right? Why shouldn't they already be working well together? They're both by Google. So yeah, so I'm going to be talking about the integration of those two technologies. But before talking about how to integrate them, I want to talk about one versus the other. As I said before, a lot of people get confused by those technologies since they are both provided by Google. They think that the development is the same, that I don't know, that the Google Home device works on Android. Not at all. They're different platforms, different developer ecosystems. The first thing that I want to show you are the Google Assistant enabled devices. So you can see that I put the OS that actually on which they work. You can see, of course, there are a lot of Androids. You can see this one works on Android things. You have the Android TVs. But you also have, some people forget that the Google Assistant is also available for iPhones. It's also available for iOS. It's an app that you have to download, but still, it's available. It's out there because it's an app. It's not like a complete operating systems. There's this operating system here that's called KaiOS, which is pretty big in India. Sometimes we forget about them because it's a developing country, but they have like millions, even billions, I don't know, of devices like this. You can see they're like feature phones that they're not smartphones, but they have the Google Assistant that's integrated directly, natively on their phone. So this is pretty big. And then you have the smart speakers that I have put the Chromecast symbol here because we don't know actually which operating system is working on them, but they implement the Chromecast protocol, and it's thanks to that implementation that we have the Google Assistant compatibility. And then really quickly, because I don't have a lot of time left, you have the first row here with examples of what you can do related to the UI on Android. So basically, you can do whatever you want. You can do themes, colors, text, as big as you want, show maps, show animations, show a lot of stuff, even working with a completely different visual GUI. If you use Unity as Unity to do games, for example. And then here, you can see on this bottom row, what is the experience like on the visual side with the Google Assistant on phones. You can see there's a lot of white. The text is almost always the same. Yes, you can show pictures and stuff, but you're much more limited. So keep in mind when you think about creating an experience for the Google Assistant on phones, you don't have the same flexibility as for the native apps. On the development side, again, it's completely different. If you want to develop for the Google Assistant, you use something that is called the Actions on Google SDK. This is the development ecosystem for Actions on Google. You code, if you use the official library, you will code either on OGS or Kotlin. Or you can do your REST calls with something called the conversational APIs. Basically, the development for the Google Assistant is doing REST calls, consuming a REST API, and providing a JSON as a response. You can do the dialog flow part too, and you can use the Google Assistant SDK if you want to integrate the Google Assistant itself inside an object. Like if you're Sony or someone that does a speaker, and you want the Google Assistant to be embedded in there, you use the Google Assistant SDK. And for Android, maybe a majority of you here are Android developers. You know how to develop Android applications. You either use Android Studio with Java and Kotlin. You do some kind of cross-platform development. So yeah, completely different. And also, some people think that you have to have Android app first in order to have a Google Assistant app. It's called an action. Not at all. Again, completely different ecosystems work well together, and we're going to show later, but they can work really well separated too. Also, there's no Play Store for you don't go to the Play Store to get a Google Assistant experience. You go to something that is called the directory. So you can see you have to launch first the Google Assistant, and then on the animation, I am clicking on an icon that shows up here. I'm going to see it right now here. I'm going to click here, and then we can see all the actions that are available for our language. And then today, what you as Android developers can do is that if you have an action that is available for the Google Assistant, you can do some kind of deep link. So here I'm inside the Google Assistant experience. I'm showing some details. And then, I don't know if you saw, I clicked here on Open More Details. There was a little arrow that was there. Behind that button, there's actually a deep link. It's a link. And since this user that is using here has the Android app that is installed, it opened the app directly on the section that I want. I basically deep linked the user from the Google Assistant to Android, so pretty cool. And then on the other way around, so this is an Android app, and I can direct the users from inside an Android app to the Google Assistant side. This is thanks to, again, a URL is only a link that is provided by Google to all actions that redirect the users directly to their action on Google Assistant. So you can see there are two links. One, the Explore action, which is basically going to the store, to the directory where you have more details. And then the Open action that will open your action. So yeah, so this is pretty cool, but it's not that fluid, you know. What I wanted is basically integrate vocal commands inside an app. So basically do what Google has done inside their first-party apps. So we can see this kind of integration in Google Maps and lately also on Waze. You're inside the Google Maps, I'm saying that command right there, okay, Google show restaurants nearby. You can see that stay inside the app. The query is made through the Google Assistant, and then I show to the user the results without leaving the app. This is what everyone wants, but is not yet available, but you can see that it's kind of coming. It's already being shown on first-party apps. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is app actions. So app actions are this integration that we all want, integration with the Google Assistant and with Android. So if you integrate with app actions, you basically voice enable your Android app through the Google Assistant. So this is pretty cool. And everything that you have to do is declaring an XML file, I can show it to you right now. It's right open here on my Android Studio. So this is a file that's called actions.xml. And you can see that I have made this action tag here with an intent name that is start exercise, so pretty cool. And I only have to provide a deep link, a link that for my action. And what I want to say too, before integrating with app actions, you have to have deep linking working in some kind of way inside your app. I think this is a fairly broad feature that everyone has in general in their app. So basically, if you already have deep linking working on your app, you could have app actions that work. You do some kind of mapping with the parameter that is on the URL to the parameter that is going to be sent to the Android app. And then you can set some strings to say what kind of synonyms, what kind of things that you want, you were expecting. And you can see that here I have start exercise, stop exercise, get exercise, observation. If I go back here, yes, you can see that on the developer preview, it's not available for everyone. Yes, it's available for everyone, but on developer preview, but for these specific use cases that were announced at Google I/O this year. So unfortunately, if your app does not enter these categories right here, it doesn't work, but you can start looking how it works because it's really powerful to integrate it with Google Assistant inside your Android app. So yeah, so you can see this are the actions that you can currently use. So you can see the one that I had there was this one. I'm going to show really quickly here how it works. I'm going to quit this presentation mode because I have to launch something. As I say, it's on developer preview. So they have provided a plugin for Android Studio. If it wants to launch, yes. A plugin that will basically send the signal to the app as if I was saying something with the Google Assistant. So if I make run here, up. Oh, yeah. I'm going to, so you see I did run. And it was, if you saw it well, it was a start exercise, so it made all the parameters. It works also with, if I say the hot word through the Google Assistant. I'm not going to show it here, but it works well too. So yeah, so basically, everything that I had to do is integrating this file and publishing it to the Play Store with this file, and I could say some kind of a voice command to the Google Assistant, and it directed me to the right page inside the Android app, so really powerful. I'm going to be talking really quickly about this feature here that has not been announced at Google I/O, but if you read the docs, you can see that there is the open app feature that is really cool, because it means that basically every developer can start integrating with app actions today. So basically, you say everything you have to provide it to the action is the name of the feature, and it would be the user will be redirected to the feature. So this is the kind of value that it is expecting. You can see there are no example queries, but yes, it's early stage. And it does not work, it works with the test tool that I will show you on Android Studio, but it does not work if I go directly to the Google Assistant. So if I find a bug, I only want to show to you that Google has an issue tracker for app actions, and then I have made the feedback. And for my surprise, a lot of people responded to it and said, oh, please fix it as soon as possible, because it's really useful. Still, like 2 days ago, I was still receiving notifications that more people were responding to this thread, saying, because this is really useful feature, but it's not working very well today. So yeah, so if you do app actions, when you think about the 4 blocks that you have to implement inside your app, you're basically delegating everything to the Google Assistant. Again, everything that you have to do, if you have implemented deep linking, you have only to do the actions.xml file, and everything else is managed by the Google Assistant. So this is what we talked about today. And with this, I thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please do. And you can even do questions in Russian. I have my professional translator right here that will translate the question. No questions? And yes, okay. Oh, the micro was there. Very far.
Thank you for your talk. My question is, do you have some numbers? Do this feature really useful for business? I mean, maybe I have a really big application for 1 million of users, and how many users will use this?
The voice interaction?
Yes.
So I think it's not for every business. I think you can totally think about, I don't know what's your app about, but I have people that have specifically said to me, like the taxi driver, or there's another one that did a truck delivery thing. There are some specific use cases that totally make sense because someone is driving, is a recipe and stuff like that. But, and also I work, my current client is a supermarket. Also when they are doing the preparation of an order or something like that, or working on the stocks, or working on the, how do you say that, on the, where you have all the products, if you want to organize them, you have your hands that are busy. So you can think about those kind of use cases for business. For general public, I think it's still a bet today. People are not yet accustomed to doing this kind of features, but I can think, we are thinking about on the client side app of the supermarket where people go to make their orders. Thinking about, look for my usual milk or my usual order, something like that, doing like a search, but that is enabled by voice, or if it's not enabled by voice, that is some kind of conversational feature, something like that. I have not seen any yet that it's a big app that is available in production, but definitely on the client where I work, we're thinking about it. I have spoken with several other clients that think about that too, but still, it's still early days. I don't have any.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Next.
Hello, thank you for your speech. So you've mentioned before an issue tracker of Google.
Yes.
So if it's possible to integrate Google Assistant or some, I don't know, third-party thing
Yeah.
To recognize the voice and include it into some huge business, for example.
Okay.
And if something goes wrong, for example, some bug appears, and you are responsible for the workability or something like that.
For the reliability of the
Yeah.
thing, yes.
And so you should tell your users like, we have this bug, but we
Yeah.
can't fix it because
It's the fault
not
of the
our authority.
Google.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how to resolve such issues?
That's a very good question because, yes, we are relying on those kind of services that sometimes don't work because sometimes servers are down, because sometimes they have some problems on their side. Yes, you should definitely think about doing some kind of feedback to your users, or some kind of channel to your users to explain to them that you've been having some problems. But again, I don't have any huge app for a huge company that uses this kind of technology. And again, it's still the early days, so we don't have millions and billions of people that are using this. But a very good point, because we should definitely be thinking about that, but only we can maybe think about sending maybe a push notification or something like that. We're sorry, but our service is facing some problems, something like that. But yes, definitely prevent your users that the service is not working. You know, when you are a user, you only see the app. So the thing that doesn't work is the app. So it's the fault of the app. So you have to take some kind of responsibility, and yes, you're welcome.
Hello, thank you
Hi.
for your talk.
Thanks.
I'd like to ask, is it possible to teach your application to react only to one voice, to the voice of the owner?
To detect the voice of the person and only respond to that person?
Yeah, yes.
So, I think it's maybe related to security or something like that.
Yeah.
So with the Google Assistant, if you do with the Google Assistant you can actually detect, I think, up to 5 different voices. You can register them for every person that lives in your house, maybe. With third-party SDKs, I have not looked into that. I don't think so. I should definitely look into that. But with the Google Assistant, you can.
Thank you.